Okay, in this video, we're going to look at how do you actually stop an argument, a fight that you constantly have with your spouse. They are very uncomfortable. They can be very, very, very damaging. Both of you could hurt each other, wound each other irreparably. So it's very important that we look at skills, strategies, and ways in which we can, one, avoid, two, de-escalate, three, repair the fights that we normally have. I need to point out that fights are natural. Arguments, maybe, from time to time you will clash. You're a human being, you have emotions, your spouse also has emotions. And from time to time we will step on each other's toes. Where I'm from, back in the Caribbean, in Montserrat, we used to say that teeth and tongue would meet and bite. I don't know if you've ever bitten your tongue, but it's very, very painful. Because they're in close proximity of each other, there are times when you might clip your tongue. Similarly, in a relationship, in any relationship, there would be times that you unintentionally say things that trigger your spouse, or they unintentionally say things that trigger you. There are times when you feel that you're walking on eggshells, as they would say. And there are times when you don't know what you've done, but they are holding some kind of resentment, of bitterness. And, from time to time, you get this passive aggressive attitude and you're unaware that you've done anything wrong. Similarly, your spouse might have done something, said something that you feel very offended by, it was very offensive or hurt by, and you're waiting for them to apologize and come back to you and say, well, look, I was wrong. And you're not seeing any signs of it. And that's probably because they're not aware that they've hurt you, or they think that what they've said or done shouldn't impact you that way, so there's no need to apologize. So let's start primarily to say that the best thing, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. The best way to deal with fights is to not have them. But like I said, they're inevitable and we need to know how to deal with them when they happen. And actually, if we navigate them quite well, they are very productive for the improvement and the enhancement of the relationship. It is almost like diseases. When your body gets a certain disease or is exposed to a certain type of pathogen or germ, what happens, the body is able to make antibodies. That's why they give you vaccines. Vaccination is to trigger the body to defend itself against this type of disease. So when we get into fights, when we get into struggles, when we get into contention, when we get into argument, if we are able to navigate those arguments, fights, contentions, using the skills that I'm going to share, it enhances the relationship and you become even more intimate. Your bond of love and intimacy goes stronger. Of course, he has the potential of splitting you apart, but we're looking at the positive of it right now. So one of the ways of preventing problems in your marriage, in your relationship, is to keep your spouse happy. That's very simple. But when a person is happy, even though things would be said or done or happen or not happen, it doesn't bother them as much because they are in a place where it's almost like water off a duck's back. They don't really, it might affect them, it might hurt them in the moment, but there is a lot more positive things that are going on that mitigates that. John Gottman, the father of modern research in the area of relationship, came up with a formula. He said that in order for your relationship to function at least on an even keel playing field, you need to have a 5-to-1 ratio of good to bad things happening. So for every one thing or negative thing or bad thing that would cause hurt or harm or cause some kind of upset, you need 5 positive things. However, the relationships that are high functioning, the masters of relationship, the relationships that really scoring like 10 out of 10 or 8 out of 10, right above board, they found that those relationships have 20 to 1. Well, you're thinking, man, how could I do that? But you used to do that. I mean, during the first flush of romance that you both had, you were just scoring out of the ballpark. So the point I'm making is, if you keep your spouse happy, and both of you are happy, and you are really depositing in their love bank, as Dr. Willard Harley would call it, and you make them feel good, then the occasional deed or misdeed won't really impact that much. So that's one way. The second way is what I would say that you would... Oh, okay, right. The other thing, I think the good book, the Bible, says that a merry heart does good like a medicine. So if you keep your spouse happy, it will be like medication or vaccination against the challenging times. There is a guy that I read, Alain de Botton. He is a philosopher, and he developed what I think is called the School of Life or the School of Love. I think it's the School of Life. And he has written a book on relationship. It's a tiny book, and it's quite powerful. In it, he makes a suggestion that I would actually want to make here. That suggestion is that you actually set out time to deal with issues as and when they crop up, and even before they crop up, to deal with how to remedy current issues that might be there, like silent ticking time bombs. And his suggestion is that, once a week or so, you sit down and you ask each other questions like, how have I hurt you this week or today? What do I need to apologize for? And what that does is to give the person a chance to bring up something that might be simmering in the background that they don't know how to bring up. It's kind of sensitive. But once you allow them, give them the space, the safe space for them to just come out with it, then it's easier to deal with it and nip it in the bud than allow the resentment to simmer and boil and fester into bitterness, which eventually will explode into anger. Another question, and sometimes when I'm dealing with supporting people, I would ask them to go through what is called a temperature check, a romantic temperature check. And one of the items on that is to ask the person, about puzzles. So rather than blaming and saying, oh, you did that upset me, you frame it in a way to suggest, look, when you did that, I don't fully understand why you made the comment or you did that specific action. You call out the action. Help me to understand. Help me to know the story that you made up in your mind. And that would help to diffuse the ticking time bomb that would eventually unravel. And then when something is triggered, it could be one simple slight thing, then a whole bombshell explodes. Secondly, have a safe way. Regularly, maybe once a week or so, have a safe conversation where both of you could talk about issues that are bothering you and deal with them, nipping them in the bud, or asking your spouse, how have I upset you? What do I need to apologize for? And similarly, they would ask you that question, and then within that safe confines, you can deal with potential fights. Remember, prevention is better than cure. In the next video, we will look at things that you can do when you are dead center in the fight, when mudslinging is going back and forth, when the mess hits the fan, when there is all-out war and you find words like bullets penetrating your heart. What do you do? That's what we're going to deal with in the next video. Talk soon.